This tiny beetle can turn its own body into a pressurized chemical weapon, and it does it in a fraction of a second, hot enough to burn skin on contact. Here's what's happening inside it right before it fires, and why nothing else in nature does what it's about to do. Picture a beetle smaller than a paperclip, standing its ground against a hunting spider 10 times its size. It doesn't run, it doesn't hide, it plants its legs, curls its abdomen forward like a turret locking onto a target, and fires. What comes out isn't venom. It isn't acid stored in a gland ready to leak out like a snake's fangs dripping poison. It's a reaction, created on demand, mixed inside its own body in less time than it takes you to blink. No warning shot. No hesitation. Just an instant controlled detonation aimed with pinpoint accuracy. So how does an insect with a nervous system smaller than a grain of rice pull off a feat of precision chemistry that would require a lab coat, safety goggles, and a fume hood if a human tried to replicate it? That question is exactly what we're about to answer, piece by piece. Meet the Bombardier beetle, a name it earned the hard way, through millions of years of predators learning the hard way not to mess with it. There are more than 500 known species scattered across nearly every continent, living under rocks, buried in leaf litter, tucked along stream banks, wherever small insects hide from the bigger things that want to eat them. On the surface, nothing about this beetle looks dangerous. It's glossy, dark-bodied, unremarkable at a glance, the kind of insect you'd walk past without a second thought. But inside its abdomen sits one of the strangest and most sophisticated defense systems ever documented in the animal kingdom. And scientists have spent decades trying to fully map out how it works without the beetle accidentally destroying itself in the process. Because here's the twist almost nobody expects the first time they hear about this insect. The chemicals it uses aren't dangerous on their own. Separately, they're almost harmless. It's what happens the instant they meet that turns them into a weapon. And the story of how the beetle keeps that meeting under total control, timed down to the millisecond every single time, without fail, is where this gets genuinely hard to believe. Inside the beetle's abdomen are 2 separate chambers, sealed off from one another like a 2-part epoxy kit waiting to be mixed. One chamber holds a stable solution of hydroquinones and hydrogen peroxide, chemicals that, sitting quietly on their own, aren't much more dangerous than something you'd find in a skincare product or a bottle of household disinfectant. You could dip a finger in either one separately and walk away fine. The second chamber holds something very different, a concentrated payload of enzymes, specifically catalase and peroxidase, whose entire biological purpose is to accelerate chemical reactions violently and fast. As long as these 2 chambers stay sealed apart, the beetle is just quietly carrying around a set of inert ingredients, no more dangerous than any other insect crawling through the dirt. But the moment it senses a threat, a shadow closing in, vibrations from an approaching predator, the grip of jaws or claws, muscles surrounding the first chamber contract sharply, and a precisely measured dose of that hydroquinone mixture gets forced through a one-way valve directly into the reaction chamber, where the enzymes are waiting. What happens next takes roughly 1/10 of a second, and it's closer to a controlled explosion than anything resembling a typical bodily secretion. The enzymes tear into the hydrogen peroxide almost instantly, ripping the molecule apart and releasing a sudden surge of oxygen gas. That oxygen reacts violently with the hydroquinones, converting them into a caustic, foul-smelling compound called benzoquinone, the actual irritant responsible for burning and stinging whatever it touches. But the real shock, the detail that stops most people mid-sentence, is what this reaction does to temperature. The process is exothermic, meaning it releases heat as a direct byproduct, and it releases so much heat so quickly that the mixture inside the chamber reaches roughly 100 degrees Celsius, right at the boiling point of water. Some of that liquid instantly flashes into vapor inside the sealed chamber. Pressure spikes, and the beetle channels every bit of that pressure straight out through a rotating rear nozzle, blasting a scalding, chemically hostile spray directly at whatever's attacking it, adjusting its aim almost like a tiny turret gunner tracking a moving target. Now here's where most explanations of this beetle stop cold, and where the real question actually begins. A rapid, repeated, near-boiling chemical explosion happening again and again inside a living creature's own soft body. So why doesn't the beetle cook itself alive from the inside out? The answer lies in a piece of biological engineering that human-built systems still struggle to fully match. The reaction chamber isn't a soft, vulnerable pouch like the rest of the beetle's abdomen. It's lined with a hardened cuticle, a tough, heat-resistant layer that acts almost like a ceramic coating, shielding the delicate surrounding tissue from the worst of that thermal spike. But the cuticle alone doesn't explain everything. The beetle also doesn't fire one long, continuous, sustained blast. High-speed camera footage, captured by researchers studying this insect frame by frame at thousands of frames per second, revealed something nobody had expected going in. The spray isn't a steady stream at all. It comes out in rapid, discrete pulses, dozens of them every single second, like a machine gun firing short bursts instead of a fire hose running continuously. Each individual pulse is brief enough that heat doesn't have time to build up and damage the beetle's own internal tissue, but strung together, those pulses form what looks and feels to any predator like one continuous scalding jet. It's a pulsing valve system, operating faster than most attackers can even process what's happening to them, faster than a human eye could ever track without specialized equipment. And the beetle isn't limited to a single desperate shot either. It can fire this spray up to 20 times in rapid succession before its chemical reserves need to replenish, adjusting the direction of its nozzle with startling precision to hit an attacker no matter which side it's been grabbed from, whether jaws have closed around its head or a claw has pinned its leg. Ants, frogs, spiders, even birds have all been documented recoiling immediately after contact, some dropping the beetle entirely mid-attack, stunned by a defense they never saw coming. In one especially striking set of lab observations, beetles that were swallowed whole by toads triggered their spray from deep inside the toad's mouth, and the toad, in obvious distress, vomited the beetle back out alive and very much intact, ready to walk away and do it again if it had to. So why does any of this actually matter, beyond being one of nature's more dramatic party tricks? Because this beetle represents something genuinely rare in biology. A living system that separates two reactive ingredients, combines them only on demand, contains the resulting explosion using specialized structural materials, and regulates the output through precision pulsing. All without a single line of code, a single circuit board, or a drop of engineered plastic. No brain complex enough to plan any of it consciously. Just instinct, anatomy, and chemistry working in perfect, repeatable sync. Researchers studying propulsion systems and micro-combustion have actually looked to this beetle for inspiration, trying to understand whether pulsed spray mechanics like this could inform safer fuel injection systems, fire suppression sprays, or micro-actuators used in tiny mechanical devices. When engineers need a blueprint for controlled, repeatable microscale explosions that don't damage their own housing, an insect smaller than your fingernail already solved the problem first, tested and refined over millions of years of trial and error, where the only feedback for getting it wrong was extinction. Which brings us back to where we started. A creature with no chemistry degree, no safety training, and a nervous system built from a few 100,000 neurons is running a reaction that would demand full protective equipment in a human laboratory, and doing it dozens of times a day without a single mistake, because for this beetle, a single mistake means death. The Bombardier beetle didn't learn this trick the way we'd learn a skill. It became this trick, molded across countless generations by every predator that ever got too close and lived just long enough to regret it. So the next time something in nature looks too small, too plain, or too harmless to be dangerous, remember this beetle. Because sometimes the most sophisticated chemistry on the planet isn't happening in a laboratory at all. It's happening quietly, right now, inside something small enough to fit in the palm of your hand.